Last season was his worst season yet, and he said at one point in the season that his knee felt like a wet newspaper. But is 2022 a sign of Ronald's to come, or was it a guy who just worked too hard to come back too early? It's Bravescast. It's the Ronald Acuña Jr. episode. Um, and it's an interesting one because Acuna did play most of the year last year in 2022, but he wasn't quite himself. There were points in the season where his power was just gone. I don't know how. I didn't do the research, but I feel like there was like almost a month span between when he hit a home run against Oakland and when he hit a home run against Colorado, and then when he hit a home run against Oakland, that he had no homers at all. Um, Projections seem to love him, but Cole, what do you think's going on with Ronnie?
His knee hurt last year. Yeah, so just to give some background on Ronald Acuña Jr., he comes up in 2018, and he is one of the most hyped prospects, and he's pretty much everything that we thought he would be. He hits, I think, 26 homers, has like an OPS, I think, above 900. He almost set the record for most consecutive games with a home run.
He murdered the Marlins.
Yeah, before noted loser Jose Urania, I'm not gonna fuck it. No, Jose Urania hits him with the ball. That's the whole thing. He hits that iconic grand slam off of Walker Buehler in the 2018 NLDS, which was like the only highlight from that series because the Dodgers.
It's all that matters. That and the
Murdered
Sean
us.
Walk.
That was a great moment.
Best highlights. Yes.
Great moment. 2019. He is unreal. I wouldn't say unreal. I mean, he definitely benefited from the rabbit ball, but he almost put up a 40-40 season, 40 homers, 40 steals. He actually hit the 40 homer threshold, but only had 37 steals. I know he was dealing some with the hamstring tightness at the end of the year. We're talking generational player. I mean, we're talking top 10 player in the game. You know, he is the team's lightning rod. He's the team's MVP. 2020 is a year that has four numbers
That he
in
was
it.
good in.
Yeah, but it was a year that had four numbers, and I think
Cole's
some baseball
favorite
was
year.
played. The best year in baseball history, by far, because there was less of it, and apparently that's what we want, less baseball. That was a
The
joke.
truest World Series of all time.
Yeah, the real we're going to Disney World Series because it was the Mickey Mouse season. 2021, he's insane. He's going off for a struggling Braves team. We're talking MVP type numbers. In a half a season, I want to say he puts up close to 5 F4, which is like, I was about to say Mike Trout levels, and right when I said that, he hits a double. Mike Trout levels, he's going to hit a triple. He's going to go to third. He's going to go to third. All right, Mike Trout levels. We're talking not just generational. We're talking like all-time great. I mean, we're talking, you know, he's doing this at the age of, I want to say, like 23. You know, this is an inner circle type of projection. And on a fateful day, I'll never forget it. We're playing against the Marlins, a team that Ronald Acuña is just known to demolish. Jazz Chisholm Jr., another great young player, hits a ball. Ronald Acuña towards right field. Ronald Acuña tries to field it, lands on his right knee awkwardly. Didn't look too bad upon initial viewing, but then you see the replay and you're like, oh, he really hit that. Coils to the ground, can't walk off the field on his own power. I would say one of the more depressing moments as a Braves fan. I mean, we were thinking the worst, and in fact, the worst did happen. He tore his ACL. He had to miss the rest of the season. I wasn't actually crying. I had something in my throat. He had to sit on the bench
It really
during
sounds like you're tearing up, man.
the World Series. No, it's sad. This is sad. I'm sad. I'm a sad boy right now. Sits on the bench during the World Series and spends all off season training, ready to come back. He thinks he's ready to come back at the beginning of the year, Braves are like, hold your horses, bro. You tore your ACL. That is a major injury. Play some games in AAA. Play some games in AAA. Looks really good. Gets called up. Throughout the year, like you said, doesn't quite look like himself. Did you say that you said the comment about how his knee felt like wet newspapers throughout the end of the
Yeah,
year?
that was end of August, early September. He's asked about his knee. He says it feels like a wet newspaper, but it's fine. We're just gonna get to the end of the season. The
Which
weird thing for me about his knee is I don't know about you, Cole, but I've never torn my ACL, and I'm not a pro athlete. But I had assumed that his speed would have been zapped, but Acuna still stole 29 bases last season.
they sent him a
We'll
lot
get
too.
more. Yeah, we'll go more into stolen bases later in the episode, but part of me had to get around the fact that he could run in a straight line and still be really fast, but the knee itself could still be really bothering him at the plate. And I think that took me a lot of the season. So I feel like, I don't know if you were like this, but during last season, we'd see him fly around the bases and we'd be like, Ronnie's back. And then, he wouldn't be able to lift the ball and we'd be like, what's going on? And it was just, I guess, a season for both Fan and Ronnie, where we had to get used to what was going on in that season. But yeah.
So what I was gonna say, and I think you said it, where if he had to run in a straight line, he was fine. I mean, your ACL basically. I'm no doctor here, but basically it's like what's holding your knee in place. I mean, it's like the protection for it. So if you bend it left and right and do all the dynamic movements you can do with your knee, that sounded really weird. That's your ACL. That's basically allowing you to do that. So I think when it comes to actually running in a straight line, recovering from an injury like that isn't going to affect you. But when it comes to dynamic movement like fielding, or even swinging a ball, when you're doing that, you're moving your hips, your knees also moving to the side. It's not moving straight forward. That's where it becomes an issue. I think that's where he said the wet newspaper. You rub. It's gonna sound. God, this episode's getting really weird. When you rub two wet newspapers against each other, like it's this like uncomfortable scraping feeling, and I think that's what he was feeling in his knee every time he swung or every time he tried to pivot while in the field. And we saw that both ways. His fielding metrics were way down. He was not a good fielder last year. And I know you had a point about what to expect from Ronald because he came into the game as a 5-tool player. High marks on basically fielding, throwing, running, and then it was a hitting for contact, hitting for power.
Yeah, I mean, he's done, with the exception of last year, I mean, he's done all 5 of those at some point throughout his career. But I want Braves fans to brace themselves for the fact that he is probably not a 5-tool player anymore, and that's not a bad thing. I personally think that his defense is kind of in the drain. And I would prefer that, almost. Acuna has been known for going all out on the field. The Braves, I think, had a hard time telling him to slow it down because he wanted to be on the field. We kind of saw this in the leading up to the World Baseball Classic too, when it was will he play, will he not play, and Acuna was basically implying that the Braves were not going to let him play in the World Baseball Classic until they eventually relented. But then just to go back to the defense, his metrics took a big hit last year. He was not very close to positive at all. And one of the biggest reason is just because he was taking it easy on his knee. I know he got a lot of flack in that last game of the division series for not backing up the carom on that inside the park homer. I thought that was ridiculous. one, Michael Harris is an amazing defensive center fielder. Harris was so close to catching that in the first place. Two is you never know how the ball is going to carry him, and I think from that angle Acuna is coming from, he might not even be sure it's coming from like his direction either.
Yeah, I
Three,
mean,
he's been told, yeah, go.
well, I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say it was also like that dimension in Citizens Bank Park is that angle. I
It's
mean,
just a very weird
bro,
angle.
we've all played Rocket League. If you ever played one of the experimental arenas, and you don't know how that ball is gonna bounce sometimes. And if it was 5 inches to the right, it would have bounced the other way towards. God, was it Eddie Rosario playing left field for us? He's playing left field
Was
for
it?
us next year.
Anyway,
Oh,
three, and the third most important reason is he had been told all season, if you don't have to, don't bust it. Like, take it easy. Um, Acuna's going to be probably taking it easier on defense than he used to. But a lot of players do this as they get older. I think the biggest example I've seen in my lifetime is how Bryce Harper came up. He was the guy who was gonna go all out hustle. One of my favorite clips as a bad Braves fan is when he was at Dodger Stadium and he face planted into the fence
yeah,
because he was going too hard.
yeah,
But that Bryce Harper on the Phillies no longer exists. I mean, last year he couldn't play outfield because of his arm. But before then, I think before he signed with the Phillies, he didn't make a diving attempt on defense all season. Uh, and he's just not. Harper's not the defensive player he used to be, but he was 2021's MVP. He was like the lightning rod for the Phillies in the postseason. In that game 6 clincher, game 5 clincher, whichever one against the Padres, when he came up to the plate against I believe it's
was
Robert
it
Suarez.
Suarez? Yeah,
Oh, you knew he was gonna hit a homer.
yeah,
Uh, like that's the type of player Harper is. Cunha is can easily be that player, and neither one of them needs to play defense, and that's fine.
yeah. And I mean, not saying that right field's not important, but I think especially a field like Truist, and one of my favorite parts about baseball is how different field dimensions affect how teams evaluate their roster. Uh, Fenway Park, you can put a pretty shitty left fielder there because they don't have to cover much ground. The Green Monster is going to cover most of the ground for them. Um, right field at Truist, I would say they built it pretty mildly. I mean, there's no ridiculous. I mean, there is like that brick wall there, but because of the height of it, it is played in. There's not much ground to cover, at least compared to left field. He didn't need to be an amazing right fielder anyway. I know we had those conversations about him being our future center fielder. Well, guess what? We have Michael Harris. He's going to
We
cover
don't need him in
a
center.
lot of freaking ground. So I think you're right. We don't need him to be an amazing fielder. As long as he's competent, he's still got that arm. I mean, we've seen that. We saw that last year too. I mean, he can still change the game with his arm. He's still going to be stealing 20 to 30 bases a year, maybe more with the new rules. He's still going to be doing amazing things, and this is the point we can pivot to in a second here. But he's still, in my opinion, a top 25 player, even if his defensive value is non-existent, just because he's so good with his other tools.
Yeah, I really don't even care if he is Matt Kemp level defense out
Oh
there
God, let's not
at
hope
this
for that
point.
bad.
I don't expect it to be that bad. I'm just saying that if Ronald Acuña Jr. is Matt Kemp in right field, I'm not gonna care that much. And Acuna has a top. I think he had the top 3 outfield arm
Yeah,
according to Statcast last season. So he still has one tool that's absolutely deadly. But yeah, going into 2023, how are we feeling?
I am feeling like $1 million, which is how much he's getting paid next year. That was a bad joke. He was the original.
I actually don't know how much he's getting paid.
It's like 10
Has
million.
he hit the?
He might hit the
Okay.
15 million or however much the next level was, but his contract was what, like 10 years for
It
100
was
million?
It
It was a
ridiculously low.
really cheap contract. I've been hearing rumors, and I know like they're totally unfounded, but I was like reading this article about how he's going to hold out until he gets a better contract. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck. Like, who are you? Dude, seriously?
So I also saw that article. It was the opinion of a Braves radio personality, Chris Domino.
Yeah, you should stay on the freaking
And
radio.
He's the only person I've seen say this that has any connection to the Braves. Other people who have said this have been, fans and that one line in Texas Twitter account.
Yeah, yeah.
Domino, without any other evidence, has somehow got it in his head that Ronald Acuña Jr. is going to hold out at some point within his contract. I think Domino said that he thinks it's going to be when Soto signs his big contract. And he's not going to play. And then they use some weird examples in the article about, like, Sandy Koufax when the reserve clause still existed.
Yeah, well, guess what? It doesn't exist anymore.
As a reason why, like, as an example of players holding out. Acuña's even said, like, nah, man, I'm good.
Yeah, and well, we're gonna sound like bitter Braves fans here. We're gonna sound. It's a good thing we're not popular right now because I would hate for this to get clipped out of context or even in context.
I guess we should clip that then.
So what I was going to say was people give the Braves front office a lot of crap. They've been throwing around words collusion or AA Island or ransom. Because basically our strategy under Alex Anthopoulos is to develop young players, draft young players. I mean, it's going to be different now that Dana Brown is gone, our former scouting director, assistant to Alex Anthopoulos, and basically sign them, I would say, to a long-term deal, buy out their arbitration years, and sign them to a long-term deal a little bit under their projected market value for when they hit free agency, if that makes sense. Now, the reason people hate it is because it's worked for us. I mean, we won a World Series. And, yeah, 100 percentile arm strength last year. So he's still got that.
Yeah.
But the thing is anybody who works in finance or cybersecurity, like me, understands risk. And with that, if you sign a guy, so with arbitration, the way it works is that they look at your stats. After your 3 years of service time, they look at your stats and they say, we think you're worth this much. The player either agrees, disagrees, throw them their own number, and then an independent arbitrator comes in and says you're actually worth, $5 million, whatever. And that number goes up every year. There's like a certain percentage it has to go up, plus their performance incentives. But the thing is, when you buy out the arbitration years, you're taking a risk. You could be paying a player way more than what they're worth. And if we look at Ronald Acuña Jr., and again, he was great. I mean, let's see. So 2018 was his first year. They did do the service time manipulation. So 2019, I think was like 1 year of service time. 2020 would be 2. 2021 would be 3. This would have been his first year.
He's going to be a free agent he would have been a free agent when Juan Soto is a free agent.
I think he would have made. He would have made obviously less than he did in 2020, as well as 2021. But I think he would have made less this year too than what he's making now. Not by much, but he did miss half a season, which I believe is part of arbitration. I mean, they do use your health against you, even though it was a freak play. That's the risk that the Braves take with these contracts. With Austin Riley's extension, with Spencer Strider's extension, with Michael Harris's. This is sounding ridiculous, I know. But these players, not saying they are, not saying I want them to be because I don't, but these players could have a rough couple of years, and we could be paying them more than what they're actually worth. but that's the risk that we take when we sign them to these long-term contracts. So it just frustrates me when people complain or think that it's an unfair practice to pay players when they're young. And for a player, it's guaranteed money. I mean, baseball, we love our guaranteed contracts. I think we're like one of the only sports who like really sign these long-term deals. I mean, I see like Patrick Mahomes might be the exception for the NFL, but most of the time they take either unguaranteed deals or just.
I mean, NFL, unless it's stipulated. I don't watch football, so
Me neither.
if I'm completely wrong about this, just at me at Twitter, Minsub4. But unless it's specified within the contract, NFL contracts are non-guaranteed. So you can have guys who are on like $15 million contracts. They get injured, they can just get released unless the contract says, they get the full guarantee or this amount of guarantee or whatever. I think it's ridiculous. I think that's honestly one of the turnoffs for football for me.
It is. I mean, that's a different discussion for a different day, but for baseball, they're all guaranteed contracts. And I don't know what the point. I get frustrated when people give the Braves crap for signing players to long-term deals when it's not like it's guaranteed to work out. We're just good at doing it.
Yeah, I see some fans who try to make claims that like the Braves exploited them. Like Acuña and Albies were stupid to sign the contracts that they did. And I advocate this in another episode, but I think the Braves really should, as a good what's it, a deed of good or whatever it's called, an act of good service or whatever, to like just give a little more money to Albies, just a little more.
I mean,
but for Acuña, like the fact of the matter is they knew what they signed, and had Acuña flamed out in 2020, had Albies not hit his expectations in 2019, if Albies turned into Scott Kingery,
I was literally going to say Scott
Kingery does exist.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be having the discussion that we are.
Evan White on the Mariners. I know that was like a 6-year.
John
24.
Singleton on the Astros.
Yeah, like there are busts.
There are Braves, big busts.
The Braves so far, knock on wood, have hit on everyone, and that's a credit to our scouting. That's a credit to our coaching staff. A team is a lot more than its 40-man roster, and
I might be
proof of that.
I might be wrong. This might come out. Maybe this is me being a rose-colored glasses Braves fan. I think Acuña gets an unfair rap from Braves fans and non-Braves fans. Some fans think that he's a selfish player. He was on the sidelines at the 2021 World Series. He couldn't play. The first guy out of the stadium,
Yeah.
One of my favorite images is when a certain player hit a home run, and
they all did the sword. Yeah, he was the guy.
They all did the sword.
Yeah,
he was the guy there. He was begging the Braves this year to play for Venezuela. If he was truly selfish, I don't think he comes back as quickly as he does in 2022. I don't think he plays all out like he does.
He got his guaranteed money. I mean, going to be cynical here for a second. He got his guaranteed money. He could have said, you know what? I'm getting paid the same amount for the next 6 years.
8 years, yeah.
Yeah, next 8 years. No matter if I come back in April or if I come back in May or June. But like you said, he wanted to come back in April. It was the Braves front office who was like, dude, let's hold off here. You need to recover.
If the Braves let him, they would have been stupid to do this. But if the Braves had let him play in the World Series as the DH, Acuña would have. I'm sure there were some conversations that were going on in late October that Acuña was just trying to, like, hey, I can just be DH. I won't run that hard. I promise.
His knee would fall off the bone. Oh my God, that would be. He would have been.
But
he and Charlie Moore would have been like an infirmary together.
That was happening.
Yeah. They would both like be on like a stretcher like right next to each other.
Acuna would have played in the World Series. He just loves baseball. I don't get the rap that he does. And if I'm wrong about this in 10 years, I'll take the L. But I just don't think I am.
No, and
Going into 2023. Oh, go ahead.
I was well. Never mind. I'm not gonna stoke the flames.
Yeah. So just going into 2023, he had a down season. His WRC plus was 11 points lower in 2022 than it ever been in his career. He was hurting. He wasn't hitting homers like we're used to. When he did hit homers, they were blasts, but he wasn't hitting homers. He had a good run in the Venezuelan league until he got beef with Alex Gonzalez. He's played okay in the World Baseball Classic. He had a bad first game, a very forgettable first game, but you can't really look too much into short sample sizes when it comes to the World Baseball Classic. I don't know about you, Cole, but I'm expecting a big season. I think this is the comeback tour. This is the revenge tour for Ronald.
I think he comes back and is top 5 MVP voting. Obviously, he has to stay healthy. And something I was going to say, too, I said this in a past life, one that you were, I guess, recollecting earlier. I think one of the reasons we were so surprised by his year last year, his down year, was because we are so used to seeing Ronald do the unexpected. He is a player that defies expectations. I mean, he is a mythical being on that field. I mean, 2021, I was at this game. It was the Alec Boehm slide game. He beat out a routine, like the most routine of grounders. It was like, I think 32 feet per second sprints. I mean, it was like an elite sprint speed.
Just a routine ground ball to shortstop. I look that up sometimes.
Yeah.
Just to watch it again.
Yeah. I mean, it was like amazing. I mean, I've never seen anybody beat out a play like that. He can score from a pop fly in the from like on a sacrifice fly on a pop fly in the shallow outfield. He can score from first to home. I know I'm just talking about his like speed. I mean, also he can hit a ball like 450 feet too. There's so much that he can do on the field that when he's slightly below those expectations, and I'm looking at his basic StatCast. I mean, his average exit velo is down. Obviously, he was hitting the ground. Hitting the ball on the ground a lot more. He was getting over top it. He wasn't getting enough lift on it, but his max EV still in line with his career. I mean, his X slugging was still really good. He just wasn't otherworldly, which we were used to seeing from 2018 to 2021. So, yeah, I agree. Ronald Acuña Revenge Tour 2023 is happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have that much else to add. I really just think he's going to have an explosive year. I think this might... Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I think just looking at his stats, 2019 was the juice ball, so the 40 home runs didn't look as good as they were. I don't think he hit many cheap home runs in 2019, though.
No.
He's still running really well. Yeah, I mean, just even looking at his StatCast, in a down year, he had a hard hit rate at 92%, like the 92nd percentile. In a down year, we're talking about a player who's like, we're going, what's going on with Ronald? Is he okay? He's still slapping the shit out of the ball.
I mean, we're saying that about Juan Soto too. We're like, oh man, Juan Soto, like, is he okay? Like, do you have it? He's still
before we started recording, Cole and I were talking about Juan Soto and how we couldn't believe that he had such a down season last year, and he had like a 140 WRC plus. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Acuña's the same thing but
he can run.
We talk about down seasons, about Ronald having a down season. His WRC plus last year was better than all of Dansby Swanson's seasons. All but one.
I would say all but last year. There's no way Dansby had a higher WRC plus last year.
I gotta double check this. I know it's all but at least one.
And there's some other factors too that I think contributed to his down year. One was he had a lot of starts and stops. The Braves definitely, and for the right reason, in my opinion. You know, I know 100 million seems cheap, compared to some of the contracts that are being given out these days, but that's still a lot of money to invest in a player. So they definitely handled him with kids' gloves throughout the season. So, he comes back on April 28th. He actually starts in right field, which is surprising to me. And again, that was definitely Ronald asking them, like, hey, I want to start in right field. That was not the Braves.
They were saying he's going to DH for a month.
Yeah.
And that didn't last
but then
a game.
DH the next 2 days, right field the next 2 games. Basically between right field and DH, he misses some time in late June. He misses some time in there's another period where
he was just missing time left and right.
Yeah, and it's just what happens when, your body is inactive. I mean, obviously he was recovering and going through rehab, but he couldn't really test his legs, get a full range of motion, until he was fully recovered from the ACL injury. So, like he was having, like hamstring and, the groin was tightening up, just kind of the usual getting back into the game action. And so it was hard for him to get, I would say, momentum. And I think he is a guy who like feeds off of momentum. He feeds off the energy of the game. And, it's hard when you're not playing in the field every day. It's hard when you're, have to take a couple of days off every other week. And, I think if we get Ronald Acuña for 140 games next year, USA just bobbled like the dumbest play. Damn. If we get Acuña for 145 plus games next year, I think we're looking at this is going to be bold. I think we're looking at like an 8 WAR player. I think we're looking at top 5 MVP. I'm thinking, 40-40 season. I mean, really, to use a term that my friends in the crypto industry used when they were still crypto bros and not whatever is the trend right now, to the moon. That's really...
But like actually to the moon.
Yeah,
and not
actually to the
some
moon.
Facade.
Yeah, and not to bankruptcy. So, I think he's gonna have. It's gonna be a bold take. I think he's gonna have the best year of his career next year.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have the best year of his career.
He was gonna put up the best year of his career in 2021. I mean, he was like on pace for a like all-time best season. I mean, go back and look at his like. It's easy to like disregard what he did when he was healthy just because he didn't play the full season, but he was amazing. He was the only reason that the Braves were like even relevant by the time he got injured.
I see some non-Braves fans and some Braves fans on Twitter, and Twitter's just the best wholesome, best place to be.
I love it.
But people I see talk about like how he doesn't deserve the World Series ring because he wasn't a part of the run. Or like he just kind of mooched off a ring, how like Sean Kazmar Jr. got a World Series ring.
Yeah, that's a gross take.
And the fact is that, Sean Kazmar Jr. We love Sean Kazmar Jr. and his ability to persist after 13 years of not being in the major leagues. We're happy that he just happened to come up at the right time, get that World Series ring. The Braves, this is probably a straw man argument that people are comparing Kazmar to Acuña in this case. But the Braves could have had Kazmar, could have not. The season doesn't change. If Ronald Acuña Jr. is not on the Braves in 2021, Anthopoulos doesn't get to the trade deadline and go, let me revamp this outfield.
No,
let
exactly.
me go all in because this team is where we are.
We would have been... I mean, I know there was the not the joke, it actually happened. We weren't over 500 until like August.
Well, it was a joke.
Well, no, we literally weren't though.
I know, but it was a
joke, but it actually happened
so
too.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. We're a mediocre team, you're totally hit the nail on the head. We are a mediocre team by the trade deadline if Ronald Acuña didn't do what he did in those first 80.
And if you just reverse
games.
the timeline, so let's say Acuna for some reason missed everything up until early July in 2021, and then he comes back, people would say, "Oh, Ronald's the reason the Braves won the World Series."
Yeah.
So
Just let me. I'm on Baseball Reference. Just force a habit. I know you're a Fangraph stan, but it's okay. Or it's okay that I'm a Baseball Reference stan.
Yeah, I hear you use words like OPS plus, and I go, what is that?
It's more just like a convenience thing. Like I do think WRC plus ultimately is a better stat, but it's just like force of habit. It's like convenience for me. Like it's just I'm so familiar with the layout of Baseball Reference. Like I still use Fangraphs, but Baseball Reference is just like I know where everything is. If I need to find like a specific stat, or I need to like average together some seasons or some games, like I can do it easily. And I got StatHead too.
I am a StatHead subscriber. Like I do love things that Baseball Reference has to offer. StatHead subscribes to my YouTube channel, so I don't want them to scare away. I do love.
No, StatHead's awesome. Yeah.
StatHead, they are incredible. I get a lot of my video ideas. My most recent video was a StatHead query. So I do love a lot about Baseball Reference, but at the end of the day, when it just comes to like WAR, WRC plus, having the defensive stats kind of all in one place.
The advanced stats. I mean, you have like advanced framing and like I don't think. Well, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, if you look up Sean Murphy's F4 versus Sean Murphy's B4,
I definitely,
they're very, very drastic.
Yeah, I definitely. When it comes to certain positions, I look at F4, and catcher is one of them. So when we're looking at 2021, Ronald Acuña Jr., 283 average, 394 on base, 596 slugging, adds up to a 990 OPS, 158 OPS plus. It's gonna be BWAR. I'm sorry. 3.6 BWAR in 82 games.
You want to hear an even crazier stat then?
What?
In 82 games, Ronald Acuña Jr. had a 157 WRC plus.
Wow.
He had a 4.3 F4.
Wow.
Wow, that sounds a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, OPS
as the great foolish
higher.
baseball once said, the best version of WAR is the one that supports your argument.
I mean, they both support a pretty strong argument that Ronald Acuña had a really damn good 2021 before tearing his ACL.
But oh god, what we missed out on. He would have been MVP if he had made the whole season. I mean, in a half season, he had 24 homers.
Yeah, I mean, do the math, people. He's nearly hitting. He is getting close to 50. Also, he stole 17 bases. I mean, he would have had probably not, but possibly the first 50-30 season ever. Never been done before. And I think he could do it. I think he still can. I mean, he stole 29 bases last year. I mean, he got caught stealing 11 times, but new rules.
It's
going to be more
year.
than that, yeah.
There is the slimmest of possibilities that Ronald Acuña Jr. has a 50-50 season.
I think
that
normally,
is not with.
You go.
I'm just saying it's never been done before. But Acuña technically has a chance. It's not like Austin Riley. We love Austin. We just did a podcast on Austin. Austin Riley has a 0% chance of a 50-50 season.
And that's what I'm saying. I was going to say, like, that sounds impossible, but Ronald Acuña Jr. makes the impossible possible. I mean, he's just that special of a player. Anyway, Colombia has the bases loaded against the U.S. in the bottom of the second. So we're going to wrap this episode up so we can watch the rest of it. The World Baseball Classic is still going on by the time we post this video. Please watch it. It is fun. It's also getting better, too, I would say.
So what's our over-under?
I think
30-30 season for Ronald?
30-30 season. I'm going to say over. Like he's getting a 30-30 season, possibly 40-40. 50-50 is hard. Yeah. I mean, I think he
50-50,
could do it, but that is crazy.
I would give it like within like the 100th of a% or 1,000th of a% chance of happening, just because it's never happened before. Uh, Ronald's 30-30 season really just depends on if he hits enough homers.
Yeah.
He's gonna run like crazy. He's basically said as much. He walks a lot. He hits leadoff. 30-30 season. I guess I should put money on it. I'm not a bettor, but I feel like if I'm saying this, with so much conviction, I think Ronald Acuña's 30-30 season, if he's healthy, is basically a given. So I'm going to say over.
I am a bettor, and DraftKings, if you are listening to us and you want to sponsor the next best thing in Braves podcasting, we are taking offers.
Ask about that sponsorship for this instead.
So, I think 30-30 is a given. I think 40-40 would be maybe, I don't want to say 40-30, maybe 30-40. If you can get the 30 homers and 40 steals.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of if he can start elevating again.
Yeah, and I think he can.
Well,
yeah, he showed that in the Winter League.
Yeah. He's 30-30 is almost a given, I think. I really should put some money on that. Not a bettor, but I'm saying this with so much conviction, I feel like I have to.
Yeah. I think
what's your song, Cole?
So his name is Ronald, sometimes shortened to Ronnie. When I think of Ronnie, I think of the great and late Ronnie James Dio, whose best song, in my opinion, most popular song too, is Rainbow in the Dark, because I think Ronald Acuña Jr. is a rainbow in the most basic of terms. Don't read too much into it. And last year was a dark year for him. I mean, he had a down year. He was rainbow in the dark. But he's going to rise out like a rainbow in the dark. Golly.
You're just getting all sorts of choked up recently.
I know. Dude, Ronald Acuña Jr., he makes me very emotional.
I think we might have to title this Cole No More Fielders getting sad about Ronald Acuña Jr.
The one where we get sad. Or I'm not gonna do that format for every episode. I just thought it was funny because it kind of sounds like a Friends episode title.
It really does. But this is when No More Fielders becomes Sad Man Baseball and tries to steal his brand.
Sweet. So follow us on Twitter. Follow me at No More Fielders. I was a dummy and put caps in the template, but it's just all lowercase because that's my aesthetic. And that's pretty much all I do. I don't do anything else. And then Mitchell, what do you do? Where can you follow?
Follow me on Twitter at What Happened to Baseball. Read my articles at House That Hank Built. And watch my YouTube videos at What Happened to Baseball.
Whenever
just had a video come out about the Rangers.
Whenever I feel
into that.
Whenever I feel a bit naughty, I run up a flagpole and start reading articles off of the house that Hank built.
Really? That's impressive.
Yeah.
Do you do that at Truist?
Yeah, I sometimes when they do the Pledge of Allegiance, not the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem, they're actually sitting towards me because I'm reading House That Hank Built. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like kids our age really suffered because of 9/11, knowing what was what. I thought God Bless America was the national anthem until I was like 10.
I'm just bad. I literally almost was like, oh yeah, the Pledge of Allegiance. That's what we do at each game,
Everyone in chorus. But Cole does that at Truist Park. Security guards will now be on watch for this man.
I will come
that's
prepared.
Why you should follow us, like and subscribe to this channel so we can pay for Cole's legal fees.
They're going to be hefty. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye.